Okay, so you want to turn the video around? Nope.
There's a visitor we had today.
Oh, and I just passed a snake on the floor.
Oh, did you?
I didn't know if they had it. That's a-
You did not get it.
Hey, sir. What are you doing?
I'm gonna check that. You only get 2 years.
So it looks like it started recording already, so we can go ahead and just get going. All right. Hello, everyone.
Evening.
Yeah, welcome to another quarterly landscape committee meeting. This is our second quarter of the year. We've covered, I think, a lot in the last one regarding all that we did last year, so I'm not going to touch on any of that this time around. I want to be as efficient as possible with going through the agenda, but I know there are some things that, like, there's still open questions, so I want to be able to discuss some of those items and take some time to try and come up with solutions tonight, and then put a plan of action together with the help of you good people, and we can go from there. Okay, I will start by calling to order. So committee member roll call. We have myself, Danny Eisenstadt. We have Tony LoBianco, Paul Olson, Jermaine Peck. Roger's not on our committee, but he's here helping us. Dan and Ann, not on our committee, but also here. And what'd you say to that? Barry, that's right, Barry. Thank you for joining us tonight, and Tony. I'm going to start with a little bit of a report on the last quarter, and you guys can stop me if you have any questions along the way. You guys think that you can definitely see it. See, that's what's so great about this new TV. All right, common area tree trimming was completed. There was a question as to whether or not we did this in phases. We did do this in phases. So we did the first phase of tree trimming last year, right before the holidays. And we did the second phase, which was the rest of the community, common areas, beginning of this year. And I believe they did a great job, actually, just on my street alone. It's much more open, it's lighter, it feels kind of cleaner. So I think they did a great job. The next step with that is going to be looking at the next tree trimming, which is probably going to be more holiday based again, palms where lights go up, that sort of thing. But we'll touch on that later. I did a ride along with Jim of Coastal Pest Control. So that was completed. We wanted to try and meet with them once a year at least, just to check in, see how everything was going, ask questions. That is in concert with also doing an annual Q&A with our vendors. We've done those in the past. They've been really successful, and just us being able to sort of have that checks and balances, ask those questions in real time, even come to the meeting with questions from homeowners who maybe can't attend and ask those as well. But Jim answered a lot of questions, which I'll touch on later. Bald eagle, there was a leak that got repaired. You're well aware of that. A couple doors down, which is great. That was a big issue and involved our pump as well. They turning off of our pump in order to resolve the issue. Part of that, the pump, we discovered the starter was not working anymore, so we needed to have that replaced. And that was also part of the pump not being able to prime. So the tech was also able to take the prime regulator and declog that for us as part of the repair. So that all happened at the exact same time as the actual repair on the leak.
Question. I noticed that there's, looks like it hasn't been resided there when they made that repair on Bald Eagle. Is that something that is going to happen?
Yes, that's something I want to touch on too. I didn't actually put it on the agenda, but thank you for reminding me, because I feel like that's something we should do for that situation. Talk to CPM. I think they'll be willing to help us out in some way. But again, I want to present that to the board and say, hey, can we go ahead and get that resodded and then just have that taken care of. Preserve maintenance signs were made and they're placed during maintenance weeks, which is this week and last week. So as you can see, they are out there. That was a concern. People didn't know who was in the, reserves with the chainsaws and the sprayers. So now they can be more well aware. And then vendor schedules are being added and updated on the community calendar regularly, and as well as announcements are being sent out regularly. So I've been playing around with Engage, and it's helped me sort of streamline a lot of the communications and updates to the calendar. I'm continuing to try and do that. I don't want to spend too much time in there if I don't have to. So there are the capabilities to like set alerts and reminders like weeks and months down the road, which is really nice, especially for our community meetings. But when it comes to our vendors, they can let us know their schedule like a month, maybe 2 months in advance. I can get it up there. That alert can go out, say a week ahead of the service, and we're good to go. All right. Any questions on any of this stuff from last quarter? No, I missed anything, but if I did, let me know. Okay. Open items. CPM. So right now we are working on finalizing the choice for spring and summer seasonal flowers. The goal with that is to do a bit of a copy paste if we liked what we did last year. So I have a breakdown of that, which I will share with you guys after this meeting that I just got from Nelson. And it just basically sort of denotes what color flowers, types of flowers are at the different entry points. Paula was a big help on figuring out what we were going to do for the fall and winter flowers, as well as the spring and seasonal. So do you have any thoughts on that? I know you want to do a little bit more of like kind of a switcheroo in different areas. My only concern with that is that that's just one more thing we have to sort of like work out as part of this feature. So if it's like a rotation, like we know we're running clockwise type of thing, that simplifies it. If you have any other thoughts on that.
As far as the coloring, you were trying to give somebody a different look, like instead of the same colors all the time. So that's what Michelle and it was Courtney, me and Michelle, we went one round. That's happy to do it again. If you're just trying to make it easier and just do a rotation, but I think that the Christmas colors are a different set of options than the spring.
Absolutely. Spring and summer would be different from fall and winter, yes.
So it couldn't be just, it's not as simple, I don't think it's just your. Okay, here we go, take all of the gates, rotate one color, or just like.
No, when I meant copy paste, I meant copy spring and summer from last year to spring and summer of this year, if we liked the way it looked. Because that's one full year. I don't know if everybody remembers, what it looks like. But I liked how it looked. I thought it was good. I mean, there were some that maybe.
It's written down somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. But then fall and winter, if we liked what we did here, and I think we can make changes, with the berry interior and stuff like that. Then we should make those changes for the next fall and winter, installation. If that makes sense.
I can talk to Nelson about that.
Okay. Cool.
If it's the content.
Yes. And you had brought that up too.
That's right, at the very gate,
Yes.
those outside, if they could do something, those flowers are just.
Inside.
The inside of them
Yeah.
that are long spur, they just fall off because they're like on a mountain.
So I asked him about that actually right after you had told me. So what he had said is that mountain, that particular bullnose is heavy with roots from that tree that's there. It's hard for them to dig any lower than that to get those in there. And you had suggested maybe putting like a barrier or a border or something like that. I think you could do that. I still think they're highly exposed and they're going to be sitting up quite high. And I just don't know if it's going to end up working for that. I think the idea now is like we tried it and it didn't work, and we may have just did something that's more like year round.
So the roots of the trees are up that high?
Yeah. Right.
And those flowers, unlike many of the others you see outside the gate, they don't have any color to them really. I mean, the flowers don't last on those particular
Which
times.
on the very gate, that's on long spur.
I know exactly what you're talking about. They're on time, getting the water. It's been an issue from the get-go when they weren't getting any water, but we asked for water. So they had a hard time to start with, and I know even there's roots and stuff like that. Put mulch over But mulch somebody else and we don't have to worry about keeping them alive. It was a nice idea.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
they just dry out, there's some drama. Yeah.
It's not gonna.
I don't think so either, especially going into the summer. Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
So we have that list, we want to just confirm it. And then if we need to, we can sit down with Nelson. I don't know if it's necessary to do that, but if you think it's necessary to look at it again,
There's only a few tweaks.
okay.
I mean, if we can figure out the colors.
If something, yeah, we can make that decision. Cool. All right, work order processing. So Nelson asked me about why he hasn't been getting any, why Felix, our on-site manager, hasn't been getting any work orders. So we were trying to figure out if that was that we don't have any work orders regarding CPM and landscaping, which would be a big surprise to me. Sure, you know. Or if it's not being like processed through the system and actually being done manually, which I believe it has been. But I think there's a breakdown in the communications around work order processing. And so Tony, you know, who's been behind the scenes and looking at all that stuff, can you help me kind of maybe next day or so look into with Rebecca, Jesse, find out what is actually happening with that?
I had them come over and we were, getting a couple of talking about doing some work, and it took a while to get the proposal. Okay, I got it, they came, it took a while for them, we pay over in front, it takes a week, you're gonna have to get them to schedule. That was, I called them back, saying, why is it taking so long to schedule this? And they said, well, we didn't charge it, we don't charge an account, and I said, well, that's fine, but, I approved it, gave my information. Just let me know when you get the scheduling. I don't care if you do it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, but whatever works for you guys. And then they did it in a day or two later. So when they did the work, and I'm happy with the work that they did, they've been very responsive since then, since had some other issues going. So I have no complaints about that. But if you're talking about this scheduling process, maybe this is part of the reason, maybe they're not.
Yours sounds like it's a out of contract quote, like it was.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so did you go through their website?
I went to the website saying that I wanted a proposal
Okay.
to get some work done.
I've done the same thing recently, and I'm actually talking about the issue I had, but so that's unrelated to this particular work order processing. This has to do with like work orders that are within the services that we get as part of our HOA. But that's good to know because I was using two. I don't think I had to collect, it wasn't that big of a project, but I appreciate it.
Mine was maybe they're just saying if they want additional work.
Yeah.
Trying to give them the work, but it was
Right.
a little bit slow development.
Yeah.
Unclear if you're only talking about CPM and how it relates, because I did put in, I tried to put in a work order for coastal.
Yeah.
And Rebecca said that, because I was asking, I think this is in-house stuff that we already covered, but if it's not, can you put me in touch with somebody who I can get? I got no response.
When did you do that?
Rebecca said that she passed it along to Chastity,
Okay,
but I've yet to hear anything. It's been at least 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Oh, okay,
So, and then the other part of that is that the only person, so one person in engage or I can't remember what we're calling it, their system, they're only one person per household is allowed to put the work order in. Like it says, hi, Paula, that's great, but it says that I couldn't submit it.
oh,
Only there.
even though you are a separate profile,
That's right.
okay. Did
So-
you get confirmation that that is just the way it is, or did somebody really? I didn't realize that.
So I
Okay,
need to find out more about that.
so like the main household name has to, okay.
Well,
I can look into that because I'm in contact with the IT person who was training us on how to use it. And I'll ask them if there's a workaround for that.
that'd be great.
Okay,
Okay.
remind me.
Sure.
Okay, so Tony will help me with the work order processing. We'll look into that and make sure that that is on par with where it should be. And then to schedule the annual Q and A. So that's what I mentioned. I want to look at booking those Q and A sessions and like we've done in the past, pairing up two different vendors into one evening, so we don't have to come back multiple times. If like there is much talk about, we might be able to use one of our meetings, maybe a portion of it for one of the vendors, if it only works out that way, but I will look at the next couple months and then determine, what are the best afternoons to do something like this, okay? Okay, coastal pest control. Like I said, I did a ride through with Jim. It was a pleasant ride, and I always learn something from him. He knows a lot about that industry. What I did learn was, so when he started with us, he was never gonna do like a full-on fertilization. It was just gonna burn out the grass. It was not gonna be good for us at the time in which he was doing, because we're just coming out of the sort of valley of poor landscaping, all the, stuff that we were dealing with. He knew that he was gonna wait, he was gonna take care of things like weeds, and we had an station and all that. But now we're at a point where he can do a real good fertilization for us. And actually, I think in the month of May is when we're gonna see that, which would be really nice to kind of go into the summer. And I think we'll see kind of like a little bit of a pop of color lamp and stuff, which would be nice. So I'm excited to see how that turns
I mean,
out.
he's saying that the time we were waiting to see, getting some results is still not here yet.
We are getting results, but with this particular service, you don't see it like you'd see like a cleanup or something like that of trees. You see it over a period of time, but he hasn't done like, I don't know if it was liquid or granular. I put granular because I thought that's what he had said, and that was in my notes. But
I don't want to jump the gun on things, but I had some recent interactions with them.
Yeah.
And one thing I got very confused about was didn't understand that, flyer you sent around, and it's part of anything. Some of the things on that flyer, they were like surprised that they were supposed to do. And I needed done, it wasn't done.
which you give me an example.
Yeah, I have a very expensive palm tree in my backyard that I've been asking for them to take a look at. And I've asked, and I've given the same response, it's wind damage or hurricane, whatever. It'll be fine, there's new growth, it looks healthy, we'll fertilize, it'll be better. 14, I took 14 fronds off, CPM took another 10 off, and it's just continuing to go bad. And they're all, CPM's telling me if I have to replace that farm, $5 grand. And so the lack of response, it was really difficult to understand. Then they finally came back and announced they had to do suitable, they needed to do the injections to the tree, so it was boron deficiency. Everybody agrees what it was. On Tuesday, then this 2 or 3 meetings, they wind up doing it on Saturday. Had this someone finally come to Saturday. Well, first they said they're going to flush it with the chemicals, and then they needed an injection. And we don't have the injection material, so it can't. It got done on the Saturday. I don't know whether the tree survives or not, but I just want to know what they're. I'm happy that I fired them on the palm company because it said exactly on that form. I got the flyer. There was what they're going to be doing the fertilization twice a year. I don't know what they've ever had, but the fertilization twice a year, and they're going to also do the injection beneath them. And they didn't know about the injection. I mean, they knew they didn't have to do mine, but they didn't know that was part of the contract. That wasn't Jim. That was probably Jason I was talking to. And I was talking to the office as well.
Was that like one of his guys that you talked to, the coastal?
I'm sorry.
You're talking about coastal?
Yeah.
One of his techs?
Yeah, Jason, the guy.
Okay.
Was the guy who's dealing with my property.
Okay.
And I did talk to somebody on the phone. It works for Jim. Just to ask, I'm just curious. I want to know what you're supposed to be doing. If it's not part of the contract, I want to hire my contract. I don't need to lose that expensive, but that I will.
Yeah.
And go through this if you're not going to be responsible for.
So that sheet I created in, with Jim. I basically had him review it to confirm that everything was accurate before I sent it. So everything on there is exactly what it is. So if there's confusion around my terminology, then look me in, because we can talk after about this, but I want to know.
I sent that the flyer to Chip's system. This is what we were getting. This is what's on site. And if it's not the case, let me know so I can hire someone.
Yeah.
To do the work.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to go through this ever again. And But,
If you could forward me that now,
okay,
I can chime in.
I don't know, I think I just sent you, I told you it's a flyer. I'll see if I can float something down. I spoke to her in fall several times.
Okay. All right, okay. Okay, one thing I wanted to follow up on, and when Courtney was here as your property manager, she had noticed some, I think it's called lethal bronzing or lethal yellowing. Some of the trees, actually, I think around like Navy area is where it was noticed. And so it was brought to their attention. I believe they had done some treatments last year in reaction to that. But I wanted to follow up and find out exactly like how that's progressing, if they noticed it anywhere else. You know, I think the only thing I haven't been able to really collect from Coastal is some sort of like summary or report of, you know, progress. I think that's one of the hardest things with that particular service, unless it's a very specific item that they're working on. Like, for example, ants, right? We had a major ant issue when they came on site to be our vendor. And their whole thing is like 100% zero ants. That's our guarantee that once we get rid of them, they should not come back unless somebody literally brings them in. And so, you know, he said, yeah, they should be gone. So if anybody's seeing ants like in their house, it might be that they were somewhere, it was on their chute and they brought it into their home, because otherwise they shouldn't be surviving any of the treatments that they put out in the community. So that's something we can see that's tangible. But when it comes to like sort of like, you know, improved growth and all that stuff, you have to really be tracking this, you know, over a period of time to see what that looks like. Or maybe on your property, you notice yourself because it's what you see every day. But other than that, I just don't have like a timeline of like when they started doing treatments on lethal yellowing and how it's progressed. So those are things I would like to try and figure out with this particular vendor, so I can get back with them. And then we can bring to his attention on Q&A. So if you guys have questions like that about the service, like for example, if you have a specific question about coastal services, whether it's fur, weed, and pest, you know.
I mean, they put the signs in when they do the
Yes,
laundry. Do they, I don't know that they put the signs in when they fertilize the bushes and trees.
if they're on site, they should put the signs.
Okay.
They'll usually do it, but they'll do it like every 4 or 5 houses. So you gotta walk up and down. They don't do it on any property.
Get back there.
No, not the backyard, but just do it in front. So it's
Who's sort of, the fertilization is supposed to be doing palm trees. If they're doing
whenever they put stuff on their property, they usually, even if it was like when I requested to put a sign, but it's usually in the front yard, the work's done in the back. And if they're doing multiple houses, your neighbor may have this sign, like just a couple times. And I look down and
no, I never think about that. We can see them doing that.
Fertilization is across the board. It's turf, it's shrubs, it's trees, everything gets fertilized. Everything.
I think you should say to know.
I don't mind seeing when they're doing it.
Oh, so the next one's supposed to be May. I will get it on schedule. We didn't actually have it on the schedule last time, because we didn't have that capability. We just made a post, I think, and it really got hidden in between every other announcement. So I will let everyone know. All right, the next item is Ganoderma. I put this on because I just dealt with this. So I had a queen palm that ended up getting Ganoderma, and I had to have it removed.
What's coming down?
Ganoderma is like this disease, so you'll notice it, these mushrooms will sprout at the base of it. You'll see this like rooting of threading of roots on top of the surface. Yeah, it's something that basically once it's there, you can't do anything about it but try and remove the tree, which is kind of scary because I have 2 other palms that are back there. And they said there's a chance that those are probably going to get them too, which really sucks. But I'm not the only one apparently. I've heard other reports of people having them. So the reason I bring this up is because in my limited research, the only thing I see prevent this from spreading is healthy, nutrient dense soil and plants. Like if we are taking care of the soil and it's being done properly, which is a coastal service, then we shouldn't see this thing spread, at least not spread as quickly. So it's one thing I want to bring to his attention too. So I have a couple of items I want to just present to them and say, hey, can you help us either get a better understanding of this? What would be your plan of action that I can communicate to everyone?
Is that different than, I think they got, there was some kind of disease that was in one of the nurseries. And that it might spread over here because they had some new plantings from that particular nursery. There were a couple of palm trees that were were affected. They said they were hoping it would spread, but it was supposed to be pretty lethal.
If you can help me confirm.
I mean, I think I was talking to Jason about that. I think he just mentioned to like
Okay.
either Jason or my old contact, because I had him come and take a sample of that tree to find out what's really.
Okay,
So,
that might be important information because it.
yeah, if it's something, I said, is it something that people could prevent spread? He said, he didn't think so. It's almost like that, north there's this, there's all the spruce or the ash with them because of ash borer disease, whatever it was. So it's impossible to stop.
Okay,
So if we see this, would you say the mushroom growth,
yeah,
base of the tree? Are we
Yes.
supposed to put in a work order for that?
let me see if I can show you the picture while we're here. So,
Mhm.
so. That's pretty much like the mushrooms that will stick out at the base. They just good as the better one. See that like the threading of the roots and stuff? See that. But that's pretty much what my optometry ended up looking like. And that's a clear sign that that's exactly what was occurring. So. And I gotta figure out what to put in space. And you can't replant it. That's the problem too, is that it's soil. So.
So shot.
Yeah, I mean, and any estimate they give is just toss in the dark, and then they could say 2 years from now, you can try and plant again, but there's no guarantees for that either. So the only thing they said might work is if I get one of those nice random pots and I put the soil in there on top of it, and then I plant from there, that's a more safer route to, which is probably what I'll end up doing.
I could tell you being an engineer will work and have done hazmat that you don't want to do. Reserve. Just put a little gasoline there and start a fire, heat will kill anything because we used to do it for chemical and biological weapons. You don't have a little bonfire in your backyard with a dirt pile and.
It's in my front yard, so I get fire trouble.
Hey, don't understand my neighbors over. Those are the marshmallows.
Did you have a coastal go around and count all of our specialty homes, or was it somebody else? Because I did run into, I believe it was Aaron from Coastal, who was taking a count on a tablet. Did you? Because we were having all these problems, and my neighbor also lost a $12,000 tree. So,
That would be a report I would want to get from.
did you send them out, or did possibly Rebecca or somebody else?
I think somebody reached out to Chastity, somebody had reached out to Rebecca. I believe people were just basically saying, hey, my palm doesn't look healthy, or somebody even knew maybe it was Ganoderma, but I don't have any.
You didn't send Aaron out counting them to see what the quote would be to get our specialty palms taken care of?
No, the only quote I got back that I asked about was mulch, because that came up on our. So mulch, yeah, somebody had asked about mulch found in their backyard and like what to do with that. Well, I reached out to Jim saying, hey, is there any sort of discount that we can get for being you're our vendor? And he said yes, and we basically explained like what they do and why it's best to do it in a certain way, not just buy what's at Home
Trying to
Depot.
track possums on the property right now.
Are you?
Yeah, and all of a sudden, getting holes everywhere.
Yeah.
They're not sure what it is. And they said, put a camera out there and try to find it. My camera wouldn't connect, but they did catch one possum.
He was probably just wandering through the neighborhood, plus I'm sure you know, usually they don't phones. Armadillos do a hell of a job doing it though. We have one that lives under our hedge in the back and I've just gotten over worried about it. I just walk out and say hello at night.
Well, the part of the work that the CPM did was putting some sod down and taking the sod and moving it. It's the growth. Aren't that's what we're supposed to get growth.
So with getting more information from them, we also want to do a Q&A with Jim, and maybe even get Jason out here too, if he's kind of the on the site guy. He's the one that's being more hands-on. Be good to have him join Jim, and I'll ask if he can do that. Last time we did it, I think we had Doug Reed for irrigation and Jim in the same night. So I might pair them again just because it worked last time.
There's something for, it's on the lawns, but it's really not grass related. But, you know, a lot of people have dogs and, you know, they pick up their waste and stuff, but there's always residual and all dogs usually visit where all dogs go. Ours came down with hookworm and people will get hookworm too. So, and the dogs will show intermittently, like it'll be solid feces for a while and then a week or so, and then all of a sudden they'll get diarrhea for a couple of days and go solid again. So, you know, we just cleared ours up of it, but you know, if people are running around barefoot. Dogs can continue to get it back again unless they're on heartworm medication that also takes care of hookworms. So if you're, you know, so people should probably make sure their dogs are doing that, it's going around probably.
Okay.
If they have the medication, if you're taking the medication, the dogs are.
They should be okay, because usually if you look on, it's like our vet prescribed, because the heartworm medication didn't cover, so they re-prescribe something different.
We don't get it done. Who come up with the appropriate, if you want to make like a little informational post about that, if you have to be aware.
I can do that.
And it could be just informational, so that's what it is and how it's been done. Thank you. All right, if you want solvent pump and electric, all right, this is a big one. So we recently had our pumps go down. This was in the process of determining that there was a leak on Bald Eagle and that they need to be repaired, but we had to turn the pumps off in order to stop the flooding that was occurring. The way in which it was done, it was left off too long to prime again. So we weren't able to reprime the pump. In the process of trying to reprime it, we had a tech come out there and he discovered other issues that were keeping us from being able to do that. So Paul and I learned a lot because we were able to prime the pump at one point with the help of Doug Reed guiding us to do that, which is great. One thing I wanted to learn since learning that we have a pump and that our pump house is how to prime that thing. Just in case we need somebody who actually lives here is on site to do it one day. So I think that's good information to have. But we were able to get that pump fixed, which is nice. And now we're working to get them on schedule for their regular annual services. I think, do we count that as like the annual pump maintenance service?
Yes.
We do.
So it was supposed to occur, it got canceled, and rescheduled, and then we're still waiting to hear the dive didn't take place, and that's fine, but we really need to get the visual and the dynamic one going, and I didn't get word back. Maybe you did on whether or not that did happen.
I saw that end of today, but yeah, I haven't.
So we're still waiting to find out if that actually happened. And
Yes. Yes. But then we can go from there once we know, and we can schedule if we need to. Another thing that we had a question on was the check valve. So last year when we were having pump issues, it ended up being a VFD drive that ended up being replaced. So this is on the computer that was talking to the pump and having it turn on. We ended up getting that replaced. But in the process of figuring out that was the issue, they had to go through sort of like a chain of checks. And one of them was the intake check valve in the lake, right? It was the lake one. And so they believed that was the issue. We ended up purchasing a new check valve. With the term, that one was quite old and actually might be leaking, which would, if it's leaking water back into the lake, then we might be losing the ability to prime, which might be the issue. So we actually own a new check valve, but we never had it installed, and there was a pretty large fee to restock it. So we decided, well, we don't want to pay the restocking fee. We own the check valve. We're going to eventually need it. So the question now is, do we just store it for a rainy day when we actually need it, or do we proactively go ahead and get it installed and have it done just behind us?
So will you be able to find it when you need it?
So Sullivan has it, and they can deliver it to us if we just ask for it. So right now, they're the ones holding it for us.
And we really should be storing it in the pump house, because it's only gonna take up like a Casey said 2 feet by 2 feet or something along those lines. It'll be a big repair, it'll be a big ticket, money repair when it's done, because it's an all-day process with 2 divers or blah, blah, blah.
Is that something that's normally done on whole pump house is redone? Or is that nothing to do with it inside one?
No, that's, I mean, these check valves, they just wear over time. So, I mean, when they need to be replaced,
This is out in the, by the, this is not.
this is by the lake,
By
yeah,
the lake, it's not in the pump.
correct,
So it's nothing to do with, or maybe some, at some point, we're going to save for.
correct. Yes, I mean, the future of like needing a new pump, we should be saving for that. I just don't know that we are at this time in reserves, but it's something that we need to be aware of, and we should put a plan together. But there's a lot of questions as to how in which we would be able to do that. So
And it's in the, and numbers in the reserve.
Right.
So is everything, so whether you have the money, and it's there, but we're not, you have to keep putting money into the reserve to cover all this stuff.
yeah, so my thought is store it. You know, we don't have the funds to go and do that at the moment. Not that we even really need to.
And my understanding is we should be storing it, so maybe when we talk to Casey, when the guy or whoever comes, the diver comes, maybe he can bring it with him.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Save
So we have an estimate on what it costs to install,
about $6,000.
Yeah,
because I think that needs to be done rather than just have that thing sit in storage. If it needs to be replaced, if we ever have a situation where we have to shut the pump down for a couple of days, lose that time, then we're back to the same problem again.
so my understanding is that we can reprime it. If it's leaking, it's leaking steadily, you know, right? And we have the ability to prime. The only thing that's going to happen to us is it might just leak a little bit faster. I think we do need to do it. I just don't know if we need to do it now, because what they ended up determining, it wasn't actually the check valve that was causing the main issue, that the pump couldn't prime it, wouldn't turn on. It was the VFD, variable frequency drive, or whatever.
So we've had a problem with losing time on that system for a long time. So obviously that check valve must be going bad over a period of time.
I mean, it is, it really is. Honestly,
We're looking prime when the system's down for an extended period of time.
Right.
When the house was being built and they had to turn off the water for whatever, a week or so, that's when we get issues. It's only off for a day.
no, but I hear what you're saying, because the notion of our irrigation being off for an extended period of time, especially in the summer, which would be a huge problem, which is probably when it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Then we would be able to avoid that. We knew that we had a brand new check valve and there wasn't issues. So I think what we want to do first is we want to have the sort of dive inspection, which is they're going to have to check that again, and they'll probably determine what it looks like now. I think the last time they did was last summer, last June or something like that. So it's been a while. He can go and take a look if he brings the check valve, and then maybe we can, you know, get a new quote and find out if it's something that we can do, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's worth looking into.
We have money to reserve for.
I think somebody on the finance committee has been raising the issue about the lack of money in the reserve for all of our needs. And there's other priorities, I suspect, that might preempt the check valve.
Yeah, I mean, our pump, irrigation, landscaping is a big ticket item, probably the largest, I'm sure, in terms of like amenities and things that we want to take care of. That will be a big issue. My hope is that if we have Sullivan as our vendor and we have a check valve, that if something were to happen, we could schedule them to come out and do that. It's a guess to determine how long that would take, but who knows? Maybe we can proactively ask all these questions and find out, hey, theoretically, if this situation were to occur, how long would it take you guys to come out here knowing we have a check valve, get this thing back up online, and so that, you know, our pumps aren't done. We can maybe just get that information at the time, you know?
Yeah, I'd rather see it be proactive about it, just wait until it's in the planning.
Yeah, I just think it's not a matter of it should be, it's like can. I think we have to still look into like cost wise and if it's something that we're capable of doing right now. I'm not opposed to it. I'd rather, I'm all about being proactive. I really feel like what's best is we're like ahead of problems than behind them. Okay, let's move on. So we talked about annual maintenance and then the intake inspection. priming of the pump. The one thing I would love to get from Doug, actually, maybe he can help us write it up, but I would love to just get like simple step by step on how to prime the pump. That way, we're not here and nobody else is here. At least we have instructions on how to do it, and it should be up in the pump house, to be honest, you know?
Great idea.
And a copy in the office.
Yes, copy and units, absolutely. And then saving for the future pump replacement that we touched on. Okay. Advanced restoration ecology, this is our preserve maintenance, so phase one is underway. So Drew Gateway and his team, they're out there. If you see the announcement that I made, I put the map out there that basically showed what phase one was. After phase one comes phase two, and once I understand that he's done with phase one, he'll give me the schedule when they're gonna start phase two. I'll put that announcement out there and we'll have it on the calendar and everything will go as it should. Day of service signs. So, add and replace the preserve sign around the perimeter. So we talked about this last quarter, and I think you were the one that was like, looking into maybe count, and I think you had some conversations, right?
Yeah, we did call the county, and they do have the smaller signs available for purchase. I think that's $3 or $4 a piece.
Okay,
But Drew has a bigger sign. The actual county code requires a big sign to be so many 100 yards or I can't remember the exact spacing, but we haven't done that. It didn't sound like Lindy was trusting us to make that happen,
yeah,
but it's probably something we should think about spending some money on. Buy the small signs, they're pretty expensive, you know, those were on the posts that are on the number of lots or for the preserve. So I don't know if that's something that our maintenance guy would be able to work on if we went ahead and bought the signs.
I think the extension, absolutely.
Yeah,
Do you think it would be kind of a hybrid where we'd have a couple of the large ones and then the rest would be small?
yeah, I think so.
So would you be able to help us in gathering the actual information of minimum, how many we need,
Yeah,
large and small, but large, like what is the minimum, maximum distance, I guess we can go with those? And then how many small signs would we need to buffer in between based on our property? Reach out to Lindy and Drew, and I'm sure that either one of them will get us that number. But then pricing for those, and then we can do the math and we say, all right, here's the total of what it would be to get everything we need to have the signs on the perimeter.
yeah, I'll put something together and yeah, sure.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then we want to schedule an Q&A with him too. That might be shorter than the original one, because if you remember, he did like the big sort of cleanup to get us back into compliance. A lot of questions around what was he going to be doing, how long it was going to take. He answered all of those. So now it would just be about what can we expect as part of maintenance? Is there anything we should be on the lookout for that he's discovered, you know, that sort of thing while he's been out there? But the reality is he's good at what he does. He's taking care of the things that shouldn't be there, and he's going to keep us in compliance. And that's why we fired him.
And he got my marks from the county for what he's done for preserve too.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to the lake doctors. So they have their next maintenance. They are bi-monthly, so it'll be on the 21st of this month. And it's been brought to my attention at a couple of lakes. I wonder if I'll be able to pull it up here. Let's see. The lakes that are more like home facing. Should I? There we go. There we go. So this is an overview of our lakes. And if you see number 1, 2, and 3. 1 being right at the Berry Gate, 2 and 3 being bordering our main gate. What has brought to my attention is that there's just a lot of like landscaping debris spattered about, and that sort of stuff that is just a little unsightly. Never actually had to look that unsightly, so. Sorry. I do not want to comment. All right,
It's smarter than you. And we should.
anyways, you know the lakes I'm talking about. Anyways, we have the ability to sort of customize the treatments. So if we want to, because I've, had some complaints about the way they look, we can actually clean them up a little bit more. The goal initially was to have them be a little bit more natural, because when they're spattered off, that's a little bit of protection for some bugs or, fish or whatever, just right up with a shade, eating areas, that sort of thing. But, we can clean them up to a degree. So I was gonna send them an email, just ask them if that's something they can do at this next service. That way we can see what the difference looks like, and if it's worth like keeping on just those 3 lakes and the rest of them. As long as they're healthy and working, you can keep them more natural looking, and that's okay. Any thoughts on that? Questions? That's pretty much it. And then just so annual Q&A with them, I think it'd be good to have the text come in. Last time we did it was a Zoom with our sales rep. So I think having the techs who are on site again in here, getting to know them, and it's the same people, would be really cool. Okay, on to greener pastures. This is Doug Reed's company. So he does our wet checks and he's our irrigation specialist. The first subject is irrigation system survey and data collection. So Larry has been helping put together like a Google map with particular switches to view. We basically are trying to map out all the boxes in our entire neighborhood and have this as a visual resource so that we know how many boxes there are and where they're actually located. We can also make notes of where grounding rods are currently located, which is what we're trying to determine. They're majority inside the actual boxes, which they're not supposed to be. So the goal would be to reposition grounding rods outside the box at a certain distance. And then there should be one, I think it was every like 500 yards or every 8 homes or something like that. So that's what we're working to do. We're doing it steadily. I think Larry is actually going on walks to try and like add to the map, which is really cool. But once we get that map and all the data in there final, Doug is going to help us put a plan together to actually go and install grounding rods to replace connectors on the inside the actual box itself, at least the old ones that are not proper with the more waterproofing ones. This project is going to be preventative, right? In making sure that we don't have all these short circuits with like the different controllers and the decoders and things like that end up happening because, let's say, grounding rod is right next to all the devices and there's a lightning strike, well, boom, there you go, that's your problem. If we can resolve this, we might resolve a lot of the work orders and the repairs that we're paying for as part of our community, but also might also prevent issues that are like of a domino effect going to come back and actually hurt our overall irrigation system. So that's the goal with this, but we are progressing. It's just a little slower because it's such a big project. All right, Rainbird training. So Doug actually spoke with, I believe even sat down with Rebecca to show her the Rainbird system in there. He wanted to explain to her how she can adjust timing. If somebody needs like a little more water time, a little bit less, she should be able to do that. She was probably gonna take her a couple of practices to figure it out, but otherwise he helped her understand how the system works, how to get in it. Another part of that is rain delay. the way it's been working is Doug basically notices it rained. He calls me up and says, hey, should I put on rain delay? And I said, what do you think? He said, yeah, so we put on rain delay. But we do have a system that actually can automatically turn it on. If it was oversaturated, it would get triggered on its own and automatically be on like a 2-3 day rain delay, which is what it should be. The other day though, we had a quick spurt of rain and I got 2 calls. I got a call from Doug about should I put on rain delay, and I got a call from Nelson, should we continue our mowing? So I had to go and scan in different lawns to try and figure out like how saturated is this. And it wasn't as saturated. So I said, let's mow the property and not turn on rain delay. It turns out it was a good decision, but I am not the person to be doing that. So I want to make sure our property management is aware of when it rains. They can check to see if it's on the forecast and should they turn on the delay. So I think it'd be better to have it like centralized. All right, and then Q&A with Doug, which I said we'll pair him up with Coastal. All right, and then mulch. So this is the most active project right now that we have information to share with you guys. Dan, Tony, and Jermaine have been sort of the behind the scenes team in helping us vet vendors, find out what vendors are available that do blow and mulch, and then get quotes. So Tony, if you want to know, you have the numbers. Do you want to share like what we got back?
So, the vendor we used last year, we had issues with. And so our goal was to identify somebody else we could have a long-term relationship with. We went out and contacted more than 20 different vendors out of Palm Beach, Norton, and St. Lucie to see who could meet the criteria, which is essentially a blow and mulch, 2-inch application, and a maximum budget of $20,000 is what you indicate. We had 2 vendors that responded, A&W Mulch and East Coast Mulch, which is a company we've used before. A&W's price came in at $26,000. I talked to the representative and explained to her, you know, that's above what we were given to work with. Her alternative suggestion was to, as opposed to doing a 2-inch application, to do 2 1-inch applications over the course of a year. The second vendor, East Coast Mulch, is one that Danny has used for the playground project and has had good success with. Jermaine dealt with the representative from there, and even though they initially came in with a proposal of about $24,000, she was able to get them to revise their proposal to meet our budget of $20,000. So we're recommending going with them. They have a good track record, and we think using the 1 application as opposed to 2 lighter applications is the smarter way.
Yep. Jermaine, comments on?
The guy was very busy, very good. My husband drove us around the property. I think we got every street. He knew the area. He'd been here. He was eager for the job. I say, go for it. Strike while the iron's hot. Because you have, we called over 25 different vendors, and there's 2 that do blow and mulch. And I say, get it now, because they are very busy.
The other detail about East Coast is they have their own trucks. We did not have that with Advanced Mulch. Advanced Mulch contracted trucks out. So we had to fill a truck to its maximum in order to get the truck. I don't know if that's necessary with East Coast, because if they have their own trucks, they can fill it to whatever it's their truck. But they may have a minimum for like delivery and stuff like that.
I would say we've used these people before, grab them. They are very, very busy. They do all of South Florida.
Yep.
This is not, this, you have enough time to waste on this.
I agree. So I want to actually set up a call and just basically confirm all the details on our quote, confirm that everything on this map is what is included, because that's what we shared with them. What you see are 2 different colors. So we were thinking if we didn't have enough in our budget to actually take care of all the common areas, what we should do is prioritize some areas and then have secondary areas. And what you see is the gold is the primary areas, and pink was secondary. So gold being like more common base where more people actually will see and pass on a regular basis. Cul-de-sacs, the homes there probably would see more so. So that's kind of how we did it, but they said they could do all of it, which is fantastic, and at our budget, which is amazing. So yes, you're right, this is kind of the Goldilocks situation, and we want to
Call
capitalize.
them up. I mean, you wait, you snooze, you lose on this one.
Okay.
They are very busy.
Yeah, I agree. Dan, do you have any thoughts? So you already.
No, I agree with Jermaine. I mean, for all the phone calls we made, it was amazing to me that there was only a couple companies that do blowing. A lot of people wanted to do the hand spray, but the blowing was really limited. So you don't have much of a choice for next.
So what's the price point?
I called 8 companies.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the difference?
One does. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
It's A or B.
What was the price point difference between the hand? Install?
We never got quotes for that because
That wasn't-
it was presented us that they didn't want to go that route.
Nobody wanted, we wanted flow in. That didn't qualify.
So I was just curious of why, right? No, I'm not thinking, I'm just saying, because,
That's labor intensive.
Do labor. and-
It's way too labor intensive, too expensive. You'd never get it for the price of you.
if that's the answer, it's, no, I'm saying that because I've had it put down and that's probably reasonable, but that's fine.
Danny, you did this,
We never got a quote for.
No, I didn't say.
did that come up as well?
Yes, we actually had, I think, several
Yeah,
non-blowing
but the-
vendors. Screen compete.
It's too late.
Blowing. And at the time, we didn't really have a budget for mulch. We were just scrapping to get some mulching done. And Advanced was the lowest number. But their number very quickly jumped without reason, and we had other issues too. So it is time to move on. East Coast was the one that came in and saved us for the playground. Advanced raised their prices and their timing. They weren't even gonna make the holidays when they said they would, which was an issue too. So there were a lot of broken promises, and we just saw the future of that was gonna continue to go downhill. So East Coast George basically said, hey, we can take care of it. He came in before the holidays. The whole thing was done before the holidays, which was the big like, yay, that we wanted in all of it. So, yeah, we will capitalize on this. Okay, and then, what we want to explore too with George, after he's in and taking care of common areas, is would he be willing to entertain a group mulch deal, which is what we had attempted with Advanced. But the idea is that we would approach him in a very sort of partnership driven manner where we'll simplify the process. We'll collect all the people with mulch colors and everything, get everything to you organized and ready. Would you be able to facilitate it would be the question. Would you be able to actually process the job of mulching private properties if there's different colors? If he says yes, if we do a certain things, then we will get done and I will share the announcement. We'll be doing this again. This time we've resolved the issues that we had and we need A, B, and C accomplished, that sort of thing. So it's worth looking into. I think it'd be great if we could get it. Okay, Randy's holiday lighting. The only thing here is, since we're still kind of early in the year, determining the best time to sort of discuss, plan and schedule that again. Do you have any rough idea of what might be a good month to sort of approach them?
I would look at that.
Okay,
We should talk to them down by fall.
They're under a 3-year contract.
yes. Very, right?
That's kind of portfolio. Related to the build about. Holiday life. We said we already have a contract. So that's, it's not big. That is, no, but
Yeah, I'd like to know. I thought it was great. I think we just still had a little bit of issues with electrical, if I'm correct. I don't know if we want to maybe explore that a little bit sooner, not so close to the installation, just to make sure that everything is up and running. Oh, and you know what? I didn't put this on here later, but yeah, no, Tony, is lighting for the monuments. You and I had discussed this. The one thing we wanted to look into is better lighting for like the bullnose at the main gate, no lighting there. And the actual lighting of the monuments, which is one light single light, and most of them are tilted or angled or whatever. So I think that's a very inexpensive upgrade, and might be worth doing just as we're, seasonal flowers, where the trees look nice and, all these things, but the lighting is poor, and that should be fixed. Mine. But anyway, we wanted to take a look at night and see like what exactly should we do. And if anyone has what they believe to be nice little sort of landscape lighting at their home, and you want to offer sort of the tech that you use or the company or whatever, please share with us. We'll explore it and see if it's a good fit. Okay. And then just new items. So we have yet to do a vendor appreciation luncheon, but I had a couple conversations about this. It's really sounds difficult to try and orchestrate and get all the different vendors and the workers and all that stuff into one luncheon. So I added more gifts because I thought maybe that's the better route to do, is that we just buy them lunches on the day. So it could be that maybe when we know we're getting a certain service, say lake doctors, 2 of the techs are coming out, we buy them sandwiches or something like that as the thank you. Something small like that, I think, goes a long way, and we don't have to do it all in one festival.
Well, the other thing, I was just thinking, of like, figure out what's the cost of a gift card to a restaurant or a Subway or whatever it is. Then you start running into people's dietary preferences and where they fall out sick at the last minute. It's just easier to say, who are the people that come? You give them a little thank you card with a $10 gift card.
One of the things that we might consider doing too, Danny, is that if we're really pleased with these guys, a plaque of appreciation from this community, where they can put on their office walls, or, they like those kind of things, recognition.
Yeah, something we try to work on. Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
I would think though, I was thinking of George, the gentleman that I was using. I would think. I would like your idea for a gift card for lunch. Or even a gift card for like an Izod shirt or something. I don't know, size, color, food preferences, just an American Express gift card, done with it.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about these people personally,
Sure.
or if they have it. I have no
Put
idea.
it in their house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what we did multiple times, I was very involved with very large golf outings. As they arrived, we had already predetermined their shirt size and everything. We gave them very nice shirts. And for other events, we gave the American Express gift cards. Keep it simple.
Okay.
Well, we can go with Highlands Reserve branded golf balls and give everyone a 3-pack. Come on, Paul, smile for crying. It's a joke.
All right. I'm gonna get that because I think we were going to do is just kind of determine like, all right, what would be the general cost across the board for the gift card, and then tally that up across the vendors, because I think we have our basic on-site trimming crew and maintenance crew, and then we have our sort of like reoccurring like vendors who come like bi-monthly, whatever. So we have to just do a little bit of a tally to find out, how many gift cards do we need. That's just gonna take a little bit of emailing, find that out. Okay, determine the contract status for all vendors and renewal dates. This is something that I really would like to do. I try and I think our property manager is already working on this. She was tasked with this, I think, a month ago, by the president. So
I can follow up with her. Just a bit chat with her, say hello. She said she was putting that together.
yeah, great. I'll see the progress on that, and then she's done. That'd be a great resource for us to have, and then we can basically put together calendar reminders like, all right, coming up on renewal days. Let's have that conversation now so that we can figure out what to do. All right. 2025 seminars, events, and other initiatives. I would love to get the Florida Fish and Wildlife back out here. That was a really cool seminar. We can pretty much custom tailor the conversation that happens during that. We can talk about anything. And he enjoyed it. So I think that would be really cool. Maybe something we can do over the summer that because it's an indoor activity, and we can forget the kids who are out of school that might want to come and learn about wildlife in our preserve or wildlife. It doesn't really matter. It'd be really cool anyways. I want to look into some other wildlife preserves that, I've taken our Cub Scouts to that I think also do come in-house and will do these things. So I'd love to put a little list together and find out who would be available and interested in coming here and doing something like that and see if we can get them booked.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think the wildlife rescue with citrus does.
Okay, yeah,
I'm not 100% sure, but I think they will do that sometimes because they want everyone to understand the animals and what to do, not to do when you find bodies, et cetera, and all that other fun stuff.
yeah.
But
One thing I wanted to do for a while, and I don't know the logistics of this, but would be like do a Highlands Reserve hike, like through all our trails. I think it'd be cool, one, to see the map of our trails and have that sort of like marked out, and that's kind of the direction to go. But just to organize something to just bring awareness to our trails, because I think it's a neat feature. And then, get the group together and do something. Hopefully when it's cooler, but still, it'd be fun. I actually walked a little bit with Adelaide last month, which was really neat because I hadn't been in there in a while. But we found other little trails in there and stuff, exploring along the way. I think of other events and other initiatives. By the way, so I would love to start using this giant TV that we now have in this space. One of the things we're going to do with Social Rec is video game night, video game tournament. We could maybe next year do the March Madness or other sporting events. We could host them in here, would be really cool. But if there's anything for example, that is landscape related, whether it's an educational thing and we didn't have the person come, we could actually do it on the screen. So we actually have more room to do really cool educational events and activities. Where the person may not be able to come in-house and do them, but we can get them over Zoom or something like that. So there's nothing off the table at this point when it comes to, learning more about whether it's growing, or starting the garden or something like that. There are many ways in which we can sort of play around with this space and get people out here instead of it always being resolving problems and trying to make things better. We can have a little bit of fun and enjoyment around the subject of landscaping. Just an idea. So if you ever have a thought, just share it and we'll see what we can make happen. All right, and then the last thing is status of our weirs. So this came up last year. We never really did anything, I believe, with this item, but it was a concern because we've had weirs break in the past. And I think the question was if we could have our maintenance tech on occasion go around and observe and take a look at them to see how they look, if they're okay, or do we hire a company to come out and do the inspection a little bit more professionally and determine if there is sort of a lifespan to these things that we need to be aware of.
Sometimes George wants to keep one of them involved. Other criteria we were looking at is just that George was keeping them clear, that they were getting overgrown. And he was doing.
Oh, great. So then that's what we want to continue. And I don't know if Chris was doing that, if he was even aware of that, but that's something we can bring to the attention of our property management and say, hey, we want to make sure that this is done. I don't know, what was the time frame, if he was just doing it?
It's primarily for hurricane season, to make sure that they weren't overgrown, they were cleared, so that if we had lots of extra water, our streets weren't getting flooded.
Got it. Okay.
was that one that was having the really bad problems over by the front towards Silver Wolf?
That was not gonna be as much of a problem, but the one next to the barricade was kind of getting grown over.
Okay.
But you added the extra criteria that they should be inspected. Some of them are concrete. They take all different forms. Some metal, some concrete. So it should be on that maintenance person's radar to have them inspected.
Yeah.
And if it's over their
Larry.
pay grade, or I don't know how to say that. They don't know how to inspect it to give us security or the check mark that this one's in good shape, we should get something.
No, I agree.
I mean, we don't have to pay for a job, but if they don't know how to inspect it, say, hey, yeah, it's in good shape, or no, it's crumbling.
We might be able to just add part of that to just, we call it like hurricane threat, just like on our checklist of things to take care of, tree trimming and palms and stuff like that. I think was one thing we wanted to make sure we tackled into that, but this would be another good one too.
Or do you just get somebody in once to do a baseline and say, this is what you need to look for, and then call us back when you see these indicators for the show? So there wasn't necessarily a year. And then our back and do it.
Right. So we get the professional inspection first. I agree. I think that's a good idea. We actually got a recommendation from the lake doctors.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I have it in my notes, so I'll have to just try and pull that up and we can follow up with them, find out who that company was. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Barry, no,
Yes,
yeah, you want to talk about something?
yes.
Okay,
I'm Barry Bismarck. I live over here at 6312. I've been here 15 years. And in those 15 years, I have taken care of the common area behind the sump. I and my wife. We finally got the new CPM, does a little, all the beautiful grass, all the beautiful ornamental grasses that were there. The oak trees have killed them with the acid in their leaves. And my wife keeps asking, why are we irrigating leaves? And that's what you're doing over there, you're irrigating leaves. We were told shortly after we got here that that's not part of Highlands Reserve, it belongs to Martin County. But how can it belong to Martin County if Highlands Reserve is irrigated? So we were lied to. 2 years ago, we had a house in Pennsylvania that came home, walked around the side, and I was clearing some brush, and I came within 3 inches of a diamondback rattlesnake. Because it's just wild, It's just like, go over there and look, it's an eyesore. Now, nobody can see it from the road, so therefore we think nobody wants to do anything about it. And we're tired of 15 years. I'm not putting any more hours into that. I bet I put 300 hours of my time and to at least make it look somewhat presentable. So now there are 2 humongous oak trees that are reaching 30 feet into our backyard that have totally destroyed our tiki hut roof from the acid in the leaves. That's what the coastal pest person told us. I have to clean out the gutters about every 2 weeks and I'm 77 years old, and I'm not going to break my foot again in 20 places getting up on that ladder. And nobody does anything about it. Nobody helps us. And I have here, and this is a legal and binding thing. Regardless of plant material, owners, and I think that includes the HOA. Now I lost my time. Must ensure that plantings do not cause damage to their neighbor's property. Well, the HOA has plantings that are causing damage to our property. And we talked to every person in management that's ever been here in 15 years. And all we get are, okay, let's send it here. Let's send it here. Let's send it here. Let's send it here. And nothing ever gets done. And, do we have to go to the attorney to finally get things done? I understand you can do that if a neighbor's plants are getting into your yard and not you, but the HOA is our neighbor and their trees are ruined stuff. So I don't know what can be done about it. We talked to Rebecca and she said we should come to the landscape committee and maybe get something done. CPM does the first 30 feet very nicely. And they take care of the big lovely things. I call them the hallelujah plants that look like this are out here.
Yeah.
They do that. For 13 years, I did that. And with all all of the acid in those leaves. You can't grow grass back there. So it's just dirt. And so we come home, we come back after our months in Pennsylvania, and our backyard is 50% weeds. They just spill right over. So we don't know what to do. And we don't know who's responsible.
So I'm just gonna say,
It's not Martin County. I'm pretty sure it's not Martin County.
well, first let me say, one, thank you. Because it sounds like you and your wife has been working to make sure that that area looks really nice for us. And I didn't even realize that, but I appreciate you sharing that with us and actually doing that. Two, you are in the right place because this is the get shit done community.
Right.
Yes.
I've been waiting for that.
So, and I was there when they did major cleanup. I don't know if you remember, yeah, I was in your backyard. I learned a lot about your backyard, which was really cool. And like so many things, and right on the preserve, like this, we weren't sure what was preserved, what wasn't, but I remember the big cleanup and it was just, I mean, it opened it up.
Yes.
Significantly. But I believe we definitely need to take care of you. We need to figure out what needs to get done and then get it done because it just, that sounded ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think we can get it resolved. There's definitely a solution here.
My favorite story is the second year we were here, we had 2 basset hounds. The basset hounds eliminated the rat problem here. They must have caught 50 rats. No, there were rats all over this clubhouse.
Oh,
They must have caught 50 rats. So I took them out one day for a walk on the nice lawn, nice ornamental grasses, and they found a human being. There was a guy laying in those ornamental grasses sleeping. So instead of hunting rats, they found a human being. Yeah.
His basset hounds are great. Because.
So what I'm looking to do is get the details to a recap of what it is that you're dealing with. That information too there is, I think, is really important. And then as the committee, what we end up doing is we try and collect as much data as we can first. And we've done a lot of that with searching for vendors. So we believe we have the right foundation with our vendors. The challenge though can be sometimes communication and then follow through. So one thing I pride myself on, like I'm not gonna let something go if it hasn't been resolved. So it's the same with this committee. Like we were always searching to try and like resolve a problem so we can move on to the next one because there are plenty of things to work on. So I just want to kind of collect like what it is you have and then present from the committee's perspective a possible, at least a list of solutions that we should tackle, and then we can, recruit the right vendors in order to do that. Okay. All right. Thank you for coming and sharing it with us.
Yeah, Rebecca has a lot of pictures and so forth. She has.
I did, email that was just sent about the tree trimming.
Yeah.
And I forwarded that on to Nelson from CPM because I'm not clear. I couldn't tell in the picture if it was common area or not. I just couldn't tell in the picture. But from what it sounds like, it is common area tree, not your.
It's two common areas.
Yes.
That hang over our house.
Yes, and that's nuisance. So there is in the contract that they must take care of nuisance limbs and palms up to a certain height. I believe it's 18 feet. So I'm not sure the height of that, but even beyond that seems like it's an even bigger issue. If it's causing the damages that it's causing and it's our property, then that needs to be resolved as well. We have a great tree trimming company. They just did a fantastic job. Jody is the lead guy on that. And, I can talk to him as well and say, hey, one, what would this cost the HOA to take care of this tree? Because it sounds like it needs to be cleared out, right? It's just too thick and bulky and.
Yeah, there are 2 huge limbs. And they came and trimmed off a little bit, but when it rains, the actual leaves of the tree lay on our TV. And with all the leaves and stuff, and cleaning out gutters all the time, and all the leaves we have a stamped concrete patio that leaves lay on there and they get wet and they stain it. So it's We have lots of pictures and we have lots of information. I'll share and get that together, email you,
Yeah, okay.
what we have.
Yeah, and I'll pull committee in too, so if anybody has any ideas, we'll collectively use the hive on to try and resolve the problem.
All right. We thank you for giving me time to speak. But, you know, I like to work and good exercise. I've been a high school and college math teacher for 55 years. And I have to get outside when the summer. I'm tired of being in a stupid building. So I didn't mind the work, but now that I'm getting older, my hands are sore and I did fall off the ladder and break my foot in 20 places.
Jesus. I'm sorry to hear that, but, we're gonna take care of it.
Okay,
You're our neighbor, so we're gonna take care of it.
great.
They're not a neighbor, they're people.
There you are.
That's right.
How much was their family?
That's right.
I love it.
They're saying
That sit down, back out again.
Family God.
No, I know, he thinks.
We're thinking about it.
No, I'm just saying, getting back to was fun with the balls.
It is. It was fun to watch them hunt.
Does anybody else have any questions or any issues that they'd like to address while we're still at the meeting? I want to double check one thing, but I think we've covered. So
To be out bigger.
this is our 2025. This was, I think, not the final, but this was the final proposed budget, and then this became final. But I wanted to look at, see, if you look, the highlighted blue landscape mulch went down 4,000. So we're dealing with less funds, and East Coast was like, we'll take care of it. We'll do it for 20.
You better grab them, yes.
I know. So those are the things we have to capitalize. Tree trimming, so, we broke up that into basically we half that, I think, or something like that from the previous budget. This is the other part of it's completed. So that's how we were able to sort of bring that number down. But I was just curious, like, this was. Oh, so we have our fertilization, pest, weed, we've got lake maintenance. So this is, it totals up to pretty hefty chunk. If you look at what landscaping is, so we are sort of the, I guess, premier committee when it comes to making sure our funds are spent correctly.
That fertilization one, that looks really low. Is that just like common area breakout or something? Because $2,500 for the entire community doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, it has to be like a common area or something.
So here's the maintenance for pumps. It was a common area.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, so that's this. 49. But it's like broken, so.
Yeah, it's broken up like wide size.
All right, so that's pretty much it. Thank you guys coming out. I will try and recap the summary and get your details on other items. Thank you for helping me with the other projects. And I'll get out.
Yeah. It's on.